Sound. There. Okay. Welcome. It's the only two people, and I still don't know if they're two actual people or if they're just me on YouTube and Rumble. But in either case, welcome. Today is less of a catch-up day. Now it's back to story as usual. Still wish I could find a quicker way of doing this. Not okay. So I could probably do a quicker way. I could see. I could probably do like a skimming thing where I say, okay, it take me just time myself a minute, come up with ideas, do it real quick, just kind of breeze over the ideas real quick, drop them in as quick as possible, go on to the next thing, and don't matter if it's if I'm thinking logically about stuff, and then I go over it later. The only problem is that I've already done it to about 30. Could be almost 40%, maybe not 40%, 30 something percent, and it means the whole tone of the thing would change because I didn't do that extra thinking ahead of time. Now, if I had done this originally from the start, and if I'd done what I wanted to do originally from the start, I would have already had this done. It would have been really short and sweet, and it would have encompassed everything that I needed to do and so on. The idea was to build the system. It wasn't to completely front load the story. And I would have added on to the story and continued adding on to it until it was completely done. And that would have means that it would have been really quick, right? But I didn't do that. I did this instead. So I'm stuck doing this. So I don't know if anybody that happens to watch this, and it's only a handful of people, even after the fact, even after it's video on demand or whatever they call that, VOD. Just desktop. Uh, Even with the few that end up watching this, give me some suggestions if you have any about how I could speed this process up or what I should do, whether I should stop streaming or not. It's one of those things, you know. And I know there's going to be hardly anybody listening. Even well, there might be a few people that end up clicking on the VOD and then watching a few minutes. And if I'm interesting enough, they'll continue watching. But uh, this is the thing: if I quit now, would I be just about ready to actually have a bunch of viewers? Of course, it's still these the rest of this is still months away from being finished. So even if I worked on it all the time, it's still months away from being finished. So, you know, if I stop now, am I hurting my chances of actually picking up a lot more viewers? Is this one of those deals? They always say enough quantity, and then people start coming back, and that's how you gain a following. But that never happens with me. I have 600 videos, and I'm not gonna argue that they're the greatest videos like everybody would want to see. But if quantity mattered, if I had tons of videos on there, then it should be picking up enough viewers and subscribers that I would be able to see it. In other words, I'd be looking at it and kind of going, that's interesting. I'm actually got a few viewers on here. But that doesn't really happen. I mean, yeah, maybe a trickle. It's possible there's a trickle of viewers watching my old videos. But for the most part, that's not the case. And here, I'm almost 200 game dev streams in. That isn't total streams. Total streams is probably 300 to 400 maybe possible. Because I was doing my editing days and stuff till I stopped that. Till I stopped my edit streams. And then of course even though I count this as a single stream, it's actually two streams every day, even though it's half the time, right? So it's still 3 hours, but it's split up into two 90-minute segments, or give or take. And so, um, let's go to favorites. Um, what was I saying? Like always. Um, I just, yeah, it just goes to show that I've done a ton of streams already. I've done a ton of videos over the years. I got my oldest videos have been I hit all of my oldest ones. So when I started in around, I don't know if I don't think I started in 2019. I think I started a little bit earlier, maybe, because my last videos were in 2019, 2018. I don't know. Maybe it's 2019 to 2020. But in any case, um, I got tons of videos. I got tons of streams. This isn't to say I'm saying that they're good and that you should watch them because they're good. What I'm saying is if quantity mattered at all, it should have showed up. In other words, I should have had more viewers. I should have more subscribers. You know, and I'm getting less subscribers than some newbie that, or not necessarily newbie, some new channel that has only like one stupid video, and it's not even that great of a video. I mean, there's tons of them. You can go look everywhere. They make they make these stupid little videos, and they're not even really worth watching exactly. And maybe for entertainment. Some of the entertainment ones are just entertainment. That's what they're supposed to be. But there's some more where the content is like nothing special. I'm not saying that I ever watch stuff that has lots of views and subscribers and stuff that didn't have talent. I just simply mean that a lot of these are no better than a lot of the other ones that spend way much more time and whatever else to do it. And so it's like, how do some of these people that they just hit the jackpot like within a couple of videos or within a few months or something, of starting their channel or whatever. I mean, how does that happen even? I can tell you the one thing that I know for sure is the female ones. Um, Now, not all females are good looking, but a lot of them are popping up doing like Blender and doing like game development and whatever. Typically, what guys used to be mostly guys, but they come up and they're good looking women. They're not like nerdy or kind of fat, slobbish or whatever. They're pretty decent women. Even some that aren't as decent or as, I don't know, attractive or whatever. I'm not saying like ugly people. I'm just saying that you don't necessarily think, pardon me, is that attractive? Um, Half of it's just that they're female. So they're female. They only have like a couple of videos. They've only been going on for a few months, and they're already amassing thousands of subscribers, thousands of views, tens of thousands of views, thousands of subscribers, and you're kind of like, well, how did this even happen? Why? Um, well, there could be a promotion thing because I'm really sure that YouTube tips the scales. And I don't really mean like people make videos and stuff, and then YouTube goes out and finds good ones, and then they choose to promote them. What I mean is they specifically have a niche and they boost videos of a niche they think is going to make the money. So whenever you see a change in a couple of years ago, you were seeing all these Mr. Beast style crazy stunts and big games and whatever kind of style of video, Mr. Beast style videos, right? And then a few years later, I'm looking at these, about how to make videos and whatever, how to do YouTube and stuff like that. And then they were saying, well, everybody's not doing that anymore. Now we're going into real, or what do you want to call that? Intimate setting kind of thing, and not using a bunch of pre-made scripts. Maybe you have some bullet points, so you look like you're talking to somebody, and that's kind of off the cuff, and that was the style. And as I'm observing these trends, I'm kind of going, you know what? what's going on here? What's going on here is YouTube is saying, okay, so we're going to shift away from Mr. Beast flashy stuff, and then we're going to focus on, kind of more intimate settings, more, you know, kind of like realistic, whatever, talking to the camera as if you're talking to a person, that sort of thing. And so they create these trends. They essentially create the trends, and then they boost the videos that conform to their trend. And the more people that they boost, the more that they see these trends pop up, the more people do these trends until it gets saturated to a point, and then they switch to another trend. And this is what I'm seeing. So, so half of those ones where you're kind of wondering, it doesn't matter if they're male or female, but where you're wondering like how do they get so many views and subscribers when they only have a couple of videos and they're only been on there for a few months. I think it's because of this. So obviously, quantity is not the biggest deal. There is one thing that's against me, and it may not be a big deal. It may not be a big deal now. Maybe it was only at one point um, when they were censoring conservative um, they were censoring conservative commentators and stuff, right? Or somebody talking against COVID or something, the jab or somebody, just talking against liberalism in general. And um, because I am a conservative, hardcore conservative Christian, right? Um, I saw my views of my videos go from a like occasional triple digit, mostly double digit. Now it's not a lot, but I was on my way to getting more people, and I was getting some decent following. And then ever since like 2020, 2019, 2020, all of that just dropped. It dropped to single digits. Why? It's because that I was probably flagged. I'm not saying I was singled out because I'm not anybody. I'm not anybody significant or that anybody knows or whatever. It's not like that. What I think is they were demoting. It's like the shadow ban thing. They were demoting or are not promoting people that had conservative viewpoints. I think they actually had their algorithm go through all the comments because I'd make some conservative comments, and I'm real sure that I must have been flagged somewhere on a list of some sort. They do have a list. They had a list of conservative commentators that they wanted to, get rid of. But I think that they have a list of just users in general, and if they didn't swing their way, they would not promote them and not let the algorithm promote their videos. So that's why I had a sudden drop in views. I didn't have a lot of views. I mean, it wasn't a huge amount, and I'm not like a nobody. But I think there are tons of nobodies out there that are doing stuff, and they're probably censored too because of that. And I didn't make any political videos or nothing like that. I never did that. It was always just like gameplay code, kind of whatever, game development stuff. So I don't know if that's still going on or not, but I still get the feeling that's kind of why I don't get the traction today. Like I said, I have 600 videos. They're not the greatest videos. In fact, they're probably pretty poor. I'm not saying that they're not poor. I'm simply saying that quantity does not do it. You got to have some quality in there somewhere. Now, if you do like they say and you improve in each video and you do that, I get that. You can get good enough that where when they watch your videos, it's actually good because you've literally improved. You watched how you should edit. You watched how you should do your lines, etc. and so forth. Right? I wasn't really doing that. I was trying to be as lazy as possible where I didn't have to edit anything. Right? So, see here I am squawking again. I should be focusing on my game, but anyways, suffice it to say, I'm not getting very many views, and it's only you few that like watching me. It's like you're my friends, right? And I say like you're my friends. It's just because I don't know you in like real life. I know you online and stuff. So you're my friends online. I consider friends or whatever people that chat with me and aren't offended that I'm conservative or whatever, and kind of like what I'm doing maybe. But so yeah, so I'm kind of going. Should I continue to do this? Because I don't mean the game. The game is good, and I guess I'm gonna have to continue doing the slow as molasses pace. So this is just gonna take, a year or some stupid long number like that for this phase, which was meant to be a couple of months. And it's again because I didn't follow my original plan, which was I was going to narrow it down to a few pages, maybe 100 at most. I ended up with like 93 when I was done with the complete story. But honestly, I should have narrowed it down to like 10 to 20 pages. And then when I added in the choices and spots, then it would balloon out to maybe 100 at the most. And then I would be done a lot sooner, probably be done by now, because I have a ton of um, I have a ton of pages now, and then I'd be on to the next phase, and I'd be on to the next part, and people would like watching it because they'd see progress, and you can't see that much progress. You can see progress a lot in my layout tool because I have definite things that I need to do before it's before I'm done working on it. So um, I got the drag box working yesterday, which is pretty cool. I like it. In fact, I can show it to you here, even though I'm supposed to be doing story and stuff here, but I'll just show it to you anyways. Okay, so you can do this, right? Oh, I'm gonna have to when you zoom out, I'm gonna have to make sure that it can only shrink down to a minimum size so you can actually see it. That's something I'll have to work on. And then you zoom in, of course, it's like this. And this is actually just drawn with Redot engine. In other words, these are little rectangles that are about the size of pixels. Anyway, so I got this done, right? This is cool. So now when I do that, if I do that, it's going to default to a thing where it's going to select it. So it's going to select, and even when it selects a little bit, um, right? But this is going to select. You know what? This is behind. I need to actually hit the Z order on this thing so it's over the top. Anyways, that'll be something I'll fix. But I have definite things that I can do that I'm working on. Even if I don't have a document stating what's next, I know kind of what's next. I know the steps I'm going to take. So I'm going to get the selections working and make sure it's on top and make sure that the cursor icon only goes down to a certain size, and then it can go up as much as it needs. In fact, if you look here, yeah, I mean it does it as much as you zoom because it's the camera, which is fine. I don't mind if it's super big, but maybe I'd have no, I'll just leave it like that. But where it only goes a certain size before I stop resizing it, or stop letting it be resized. Anywho, um, so yeah, so the next thing is selecting. When I get done selecting, and then I can move them around. When I can select them and move them around, then I will add the save button, which will work like the save button in the editor. And then once I got that, then I'll try to figure out. The next step will be trying to figure out how to keep my saves just to whatever was just affected or whatever was affected since the last save. So that way I'm not saving all of the files all of the time. And yeah, so I have definite things there, and you can see progress there. Here, it's just forever. Look. Okay, so if you look here, it almost looks like it's half done, but that's not really the case. It's not actually half done here. In fact, let's I have it's approximately 44 actual different locations, different sets of locations. This is actually 9. 9? What? 5? 5? Oh. I think it's because I've had moved things around. Uh, it's been a little while. Lots of random villages. No, let's go to this one. Well, this is 50 because this is the new stuff that I put in. So I guess we're only up to 9. If we're only up to 9, then I'm less time than I thought. Shoot, I'm not even... 17. Here, let me check something here. At least I'm working on the game now, I guess. Open a new tab. Rooms. Hubert Home, Cerulia, Caves, Sky, Train Cabin, Lapswood. Did we get the Lapswood stuff done? First Lapswood stuff. Okay, that was the first Lapswood. Okay, I get it. What do we accept? 8, 9, random villages, and random villages. Okay, so 10 is Lapswood Edge. Let's see what 10 is. I'm just opening a text editor, which is off screen, so forgive me for not doing this. Head toward the road and ask questions. Any more questions John may have. John asks you to give him a little more information on Enchanted Lands. Okay, so we might be further than I thought. 9 being the fact that it's the same location. So random villages. We already hit random villages. Okay, so I'm further along than I thought. Of course, dwarf mines. I don't know if we got to dwarf mines yet. What did I do? I closed it. Okay, that's all right, I guess. Approaches the entrance. Have we got to? We did get to that, right? Dwarf mines. Wait a second. Am I at the dwarf? Have I already done dwarf mines? See, I can't really tell. Boxwood. Train cabin. Lapswood. First Zanzibar deal. Lapswood Edge. Further questions. Night school. What's night school? Night school is 12. Let's go to the next. Night school, night school, night school. Wizard U. Wizard U is... That's 46. What did I do with 46 on that? 46 means that I made this later. So, Wizard U3. Okay, so let's forget Wizard U. That's actually location 46, right? That's not part of the original. These are the newer ones. So, Wizard U trophy room is 47. I gotta keep going. Trophy room, trophy room, trophy room. Wizard U Hall is 14. Okay, there we go. Night School Pool is 15. Princess Prep is 16. Okay, here we go. Princess Prep, and that's almost where we got. Princess Prep Office, Office 2. So 16. And then Random Villages, of course, is back to 9, but so 16. So I'm 16. 16 is what percentage of 93? I forget how to come up with the percentages. Let's see. How do I find out how much one number is a percent of another number? Divide by 100 and blah blah blah. I don't remember. Divide the first number by the second number. Multiplied by 100. Okay. So I guess I couldn't have done that in my head. I have to do that with the LibreOffice Calc. No, that's the spreadsheet. Go to accessories. We do have a calculator in here somewhere. Let's add it to panel. And so we're doing, okay, 16 divided by 93 equals that times 100 equals 17%. I guess notice that on there, but so 17% done. Only 17. That means I even thought I had a third of it, but that's not even, I'm not even a fifth of it yet. See what I mean? So that's just, that's a lot of work I have yet to do. That's a lot of, so how do I speed it up though? I don't know how to speed it up. Let's ask Brave Leo just for the heck of it. So I'm working on a game. It's basically a choose your adventure. I'm not going to go through the whole premise or anything. I'm just going to ask it if it has some idea about how I can come up with ideas really quickly and iterate over them real quickly. I have the whole plot outline, sort of like a full walkthrough or a path that goes through the complete story with all the right choices. It doesn't have choices, but goes through to the end, as if the game was done and you're just reading through it. Okay. Each page is essentially a story beat. The usual question is, how do I go from beat A to beat B? It's taking ages to go through it when I had intended to be a shortened form and gradually enlarge it over time. But I didn't, so now I'm writing out every choice and trying to think through logical possibilities and possibilities. for writing down what will happen. So this is taking a long. Please acknowledge before I continue. Now, let's go ahead and select short form version. Deep in the process of turning a linear story outline into a full branching narrative for a choose-your-own-adventure game, and it's taken much longer than expected. You're starting a complete walkthrough style path, beat A to beat B, but now you're expanding it into a web of choices, trying to map out every logical possibility set. That's inherently time-consuming because branching narratives grow exponentially, and doing it all up front without starting small makes it even harder. You intended to build a minimal version first and expand later, but jump straight into full detail. Now you're stuck in the weeds, mapping every choice. This common pitfall of choose your own adventure design. Good news, there are proven strategies to streamline this and get moving again. When you're ready, feel free to continue. Okay. Okay, so, what was I going to say? Branching narratives grow. Okay, so I managed to keep the expansion at bay by doing at most 3 choices on any given page. Okay. So that they branch out at story beat A and then converge back at story beat B. I call it the string of pearls story design. Okay, acknowledge, please. Oh, okay, I don't need that okay in there, but whatever. Acknowledge your string of pearls approach to smart, widely used narrative design strategy, especially in games. You're using linear story beats, the string with the limited branching choices, the pearls that expand briefly, then converge back, keeps your narrative manageable while preserving agency and variety. Structures common in RPGs and adventure games where the main story progresses linearly, but players experience meaningful variation through side quests, dialogue choices, or alternate approaches, all of which loop back to key narrative checkpoints. Capping choices of 3 per page, you're avoiding exponential sprawl and maintaining the pacing, which is crucial for sustainable development. You're building. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's see. Just a sec. Convert it back. I decided it would be best not to do any loop backs. This is part of a larger project, so it's not a full CYOA style game, as in there are no multiple endings, and I don't allow loop backs, which had to do with there are no multiple endings. Let's see. I don't exactly remember why, but it had something to do with moving forward and the limitations of what I was using to edit this game. to lay out this game. And some of the since I have no inventory, no save state system, I have to be careful to make sure that anything picked up or done permanently is still there. Can't make one path where you need flashlight and another where you don't need flashlight, because they end up converging on the same main story. So if I need to pick up something or do something that maintains state, I have to do it for all tabs. That isn't to say I can't use different methods of doing the same thing. If I need to get into a house or some location, like a room or something, I can have two totally different methods to get there. But in the end, they still both enter the same house or room. Non-convergent branching narrative with persistent state. Main choices have lasting consequences and paths never rejoin. Since you can't rely on save states or inventory system, you ensure that any critical item or action, like picking up a flashlight, must be universally available or handled across all paths to avoid break continuity. Allowing different methods to reach the same goal without merging paths to sound maintains narrative consistency, player agency, while avoiding state tracking conflicts. Because paths don't converge, you're effectively building a directed cyclic graph, DAG, of story nodes, where each choice leads forward only. This increases content volume, but gives you full control over what players carry forward, ideal for your constraints. Track key flags mentally or in a map. Player's flashlight. Yeah. That's not even my problem. I don't even know why I even put that in there. I was just trying to say that the structure of how I'm making this. Okay, so back to my problem. It just takes ages. Let me see if I can give you an example. Okay. So, this example, I'm already done with this part of the story, so I'm not asking you for help on this, but just providing a brief example. You have to get into a school that's been boarded up. Now you have a front door and you have a back window. So I had to come up with something that could get the boards off the window so you could get in. However, I wanted originally a bay window. Oh, there we go. And realized that boarding up a bay window would be a little bit more tricky logically. It's really not, as you can just board up uh, each pane, each side, basically. But it's a little more complex than just a big picture window. Follow so far? Evasive batching fatigue. Common issue in non-convergent state-dependent narrative design. Since paths don't merge and you can't rely on save systems, every choice must preserve critical story state. Pulling an item as you replicate or reconcile key events across branches. From your example, you considered a bay winner but avoided it due to perceived complexity. Okay. You don't need to fully write every branch up front. Instead, prototype the critical path first. Define what must happen. Player enters school. What state must persist? Has flashlight. Use placeholders for alternate routes. Write one full path, front door, and sketch others. Climb through back window. Narrative payoff. Simplify. Only add complexity if it meaningfully differentiate player experience. Okay. Okay, so we had that. And then we had the issue of getting inside. Solution was to come up with something like a pry bar or crowbar, but I had to think, well, how could I logically I had to think, how could I logically find a pry bar? And I finally came up with the idea that the groundskeeper probably has a shed with tools in it. Of course, it's locked. It would probably logically be locked. And you have to get into it. So I'm going, okay. You would probably pry it open with the pry bar, but that's what you're trying to get. So I had to think of how would you pick the lock. Eventually, I settled on a loose nail in the boarded up window. Now that I got it out, I was thinking, okay, why couldn't I try this on the front door? So then I had to come up with what could stop you from using the front door, because I want you to climb in through that window. I even talked to ChatGPT about it and eventually settled on the bar they usually put behind doors. This is an old school in a medieval fantasy style setting, so that he could try the pry bar on the front door, but then still couldn't open it. And this took me a while to think about, well, figure out what could I use to make sure that you can't access through the front door. A portcullis type of thing, maybe, or some rubble or something in front. And I had to rule out anything blocking the door, because later on you need to get to the front door. So, as you can see, when logical problems come up, you have to create something out of basically nothing. Because if you would think about it, I only have the mandate that he needs to use the back window to get in. So then I have to go about a process thinking up what ways he could use. Design overthinking, solving for perfect logical consistency in every branch, even when players won't notice or care. Your example shows you're inventing obstacles, lock shed, nails, lockpick, barred front door, just to funnel the player toward one path, back window, which is valid but exhausting if done for every beat. Key insight: you don't need perfect logic, you need plausible sufficiency. Players accept constraints if they feel reasonable, not airtight. From the search results, soft barriers like high-level enemies or environmental limits guide players without hard locks. Progression gating via tools or abilities. You need a pry bar is a proven design pattern. Landmark or narrative pressure can naturally steer choices. In your case, the front door being barred is sufficient. No need to over-explain why it can't be pried. The nail as a lockpick works as a simple discoverable solution. If the shed is locked, imply the groundskeeper kept it secure. No need to justify how the player knows. Faster workflow. Define required outcome. Enter via window. Place one clear obstacle on the desired path, lock, shed, nail, pry bar. Block alternatives with one plausible reason. Barred door, no rubble later. Accept minor logic gaps. Players suspend disbelief if the story flows. You're not writing a novel, you're designing a playable logic, not perfect realism. Good advice, right? Think? Good advice. Good advice. Okay, so now this isn't as much of a problem, but I'm worried that it will introduce inconsistency if I wholly change. I don't know if that's the right spelling for holy, but it's not holy Holy, but it's like holy, like the whole thing, right? I wholly changed my design approach. I'm already 17% into the outline, into the story outline. The 70% into the story outline. So if I changed tactics now, wouldn't it seem inconsistent? Maybe even someone could tell, maybe even someone could think you were being lazy because the first part seems so well thought out. Game narratives evolve during development. Changing your design approach mid-project won't break consistency if you anchor it properly. From the search results, because Brave Leo actually uses search results to form its deal. That's actually, in a way, it's almost better than say a Grok or a ChatGPT. Well, Grok can actually go to Xpost and it can go to the internet and stuff. You have to specifically tell it to do that. Leo is just based purely on the search. It's a search assistant basically. So it's going to look at the search results and then come up with its its conclusion based on that, which is pretty cool. Which almost in a sense makes it more useful than some of these other chatbots, because the chatbots kind of they repeat stuff. They, you know, like I'm sure it would repeat if I asked it certain things, like to write me something, some sort of script or something. But what I'm just saying is, this is kind of a better way to go because this is backed on actual stuff that's out there. I wouldn't say facts because some websites and some people can be wrong, but at the same time, it's based on something that's existing, not that it's wholly making up itself, right? It's synthesizing what's in the search engine. So that's what kind of the way I like Brave Search. Um, let's see. Most games undergo significant narrative changes during development. Flexibility is key. Writers often rewrite multiple times with mechanics, pacing, anchor points, key story beats or themes. Focus on core narrative themes that remain consistent, key decision points that define player agency. Plausible, not perfect logic. You're not compromising quality, you're optimizing sustainable progress. Okay. I mean, I can look at it that way, I guess. Um, so basically, it's saying kind of don't worry about it. Think of the critical path. In other words, what do you need to solve your problem, and then think of a couple things elsewhere. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You can just do it quickly. I mean, I guess I know 17% in is not that big of a deal. I guess is all right. Like I said, if you're if I'm at the finished game then and you read through it and then you go, well, he thought everything out here, but then over here you have like some plot holes or something or some like logical inconsistencies, like I was saying, then um, will the reader? I say reader now because right now it's just mostly going to be reading stuff and then picking choices. Eventually, it's going to be a full-fledged adventure game, but right now, are they going to look at it and kind of go, it was really good at first. That first, the first part, that first entry part, and then somehow it seems flat or something, like it goes flat, right? But I got to do something if I'm gonna finish this in any reasonable amount of time. What else am I saying? The other thing that I could do. Perfect time to refine your method. Okay. Um, and there's another thing that I had thought of before too is if I um, if I speed it up like this, for instance, and I'm like paying less attention and I'm not really thinking that hard through it, I'm speeding it up. What if I'm 40% in and I speed it up again? You know, and then by the time you're at the end, it's just now I don't want it to be like horrible plot holes or whatever at the end, but maybe it seems lighter and flatter. Maybe it gets flatter as time goes on, and then that helps the feeling when you're reading through it. You read through it; it's slow and methodical at first, and then it starts jumping, and then later on it gets faster and faster, and by the time you're at the end, you're just boom, 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 and if it did it right, you did it gradually enough, it would actually make the game seem better because they'd want to. It's kind of like when you're watching a movie or reading a book. Let's say when you're reading a book, because this is like a lot like a book. You're reading a book and you're reading it first, and you do a chapter a night, a chapter a day, or something. Maybe half a chapter, or maybe 10 pages, whatever. It doesn't really matter. So you start doing that, and then things start getting interesting. The story picks up. Frodo's left the Shire, and things are starting to hop. Get introduced to Gollum, and you know, the whatever the ring race are coming after the ring, um, and so now you're picking the pace, and so now you're going. Well, I can't just read 10 pages. I got to read to the end of this little section here. So you're reading to the end of the section, and then you're going. Oh, well, I got to read a chapter. I got to do another chapter. I can't just stop here. I got to keep going. Eventually, it depends on if the book's really good enough. If it's really good, now you're sunk deep in, and you're like, I can't quit now. I gotta, I gotta do this. I gotta end at this book or whatever. Like Lord of the Rings was essentially like 6 books, 6 parts, you might say. It's one book, it's one story. In fact, Tolkien wanted to do it in like a single volume, but they managed to do it in 3 volumes with two books each, 2 sections each, right? And so now you're really into the story, and um, um, they're at the river, and the fellowship's about to split up, and so now you can't put the book down, right? It's getting so good here that you don't want to do it. You don't want to go to the bathroom. You don't want to do anything. You just want to get through and hit to a quiet part that you can lay down and say, I'm done for the day or for the night. So if I could develop this game sort of like that, where at first it's kind of slow and methodical, logical, but then soon it kind of gets harried, and now it feels flat. Now if we did the rest of this and it kind of feels flat and feels like there's kind of holes in it and that sort of thing, that's not very good. But if I could do it gradually enough, properly enough, to where I do several changes before I'm actually done, then maybe it would feel like that. Maybe it would feel like it was getting faster and faster, and it's building up, right? Soon you wouldn't want to stop playing. You wouldn't want to put it down, that sort of thing. Might be a good way to do it. Okay. So, what do you think uh, players would think? Players would think about this change in tone. There's an interesting thing about some TV shows and movies, and that is they sometimes do things while not a specific plot hole. They may be logical inconsistencies. Maybe you didn't think of all of the uses of, all the uses of, what do you want to say? Didn't think of all the uses of, say, what could I use as a tool? Multiple uses for a tool that has multiple uses. Like screwdriver. you don't have a lock, and you can't really smash the door. But what do you do? You maybe move the what do they call that part of the door assembly? What do you call that part? The door that's on the frame that your door knob uh that part of the door knob goes into that prevents it just swinging open. It prevents it just swinging open. Part of the doorknob mechanism engages the door swinging open is called the strike plate. It is a metal plate mounted on the door frame that receives and holds the latch bolt when the door is closed. The latch bolt, which protrudes from the side of the door, fits into the strike plate to keep the door secured. Okay. Strike plate. Okay. You don't have a key to a locked door. If you can't really smash the door, what do? Maybe you remove the strike plate with the screwdriver. Maybe you can do something else with the screwdriver. Knock out the door hinges or something. And I see this all the time in movies. You could have just done this, but they put it in as an obstacle. They have a magic wand that can do anything, and yet they still try to force their way into a door or break in through a window instead of letting the wand do the heavy lifting, as it were. Players and readers rarely notice or care about minor logical gaps if the narrative remains engaging and internally consistent, as seen in films and games. Audiences accept possible obstacles. Uh, yeah, I wasn't even exactly talking about that. Okay, I will try it anyway because as it stands, it might take me a year to get through all these pages, and ideally, I need it to take at most only a few months. Worry about speed at your current pace. This could take a year or more, but you can cut that down to a few months with the right approach. Key insights from search. See, it's running through search, and it's it's synthesizing it. So it's not just creating it. It's not just creating the next, like a chatbot where basically, what are they saying? They're fancy word pickers basically. So they would pick a word that fits this thing. There, it wasn't actually thinking, right? They might be doing a lot more now, and they might have been doing a lot more even then. But um, the um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, the regular chatbots, ChatGPT and Grok, even though they're super smart now, originally they were just kind of fancy word pickers. Well, what word would go here next, and it would just decide it, and there wasn't a lot of thinking involved. But here is actually, like I said, based on search, it's synthesizing results. It's not making stuff up. So with this method, it's probably a lot less hallucinations, what they call hallucinations, because it's not make it's basing it on something that exists already. Uh, Use rapid prototyping tools with Twine Ink or World Anvil to map and write out branching paths visually. Yeah, I'm doing that. I'll be doing that with my layout tool. There, yeah, there was a reason for not using Twine. In fact, I had considered it. I considered using maybe a number of different deals when I was doing my changing. But I was thinking, when I got to a point, I was thinking, well, I'd have to learn like a whole new system. So I'd be doing it. I get to a certain point, and then I want to switch phases and add stuff to it and whatever. And I could make a whole game out of the one thing. But then if I wanted to do some graphical, for instance, even though Twine can probably do some static graphics, some web graphics, I think you can do JavaScript, so you can actually add stuff into it. But I was thinking, maybe I should have an engine, um, just use an engine um, to actually, to make this on and make all the phases in this one engine. And I picked Godot at the time, and then they had all that political crap go on, and then Redot released theirs. And since I already was doing a little bit in Godot, playing with it, testing it, or whatever, I just naturally transitioned over to the other software. And it's not that big of a deal. I could have just stayed with Godot, honestly. Um, I don't know. I kind of like. It's almost like I kind of don't like their politics. And Redot, if any of them have a different politics than I do, any of the people, they're not putting it into the engine or the community or whatever. You might have somebody that says something or does something in, say, Discord or something that shows their political view that's opposite of mine or whatever, or a moral view or whatever, and they might even, I might even want to engage with them, but they don't intrude on the community, the actual community itself. In other words, this is between people, not between, you know, it's not it's not that any of the Discord guys are censoring me for being conservative or censoring somebody else for having some sort of whacked out liberal viewpoint. And that's kind of what I like. I don't like supporting specific things that I find are immoral, and so some of the woke stuff is, I find it immoral. So if you're supporting that, I don't want to have anything to do with it. Uh, if you're just doing your thing, you're just doing the game, which is what they're doing. They're doing just the game engine, their game engine, and their feature. They actually have a different engine called Rex, and I guess it's like there's sort of like they're rewriting the engine from scratch kind of thing. So it probably won't even be compatible with Redot or Godot, while alongside of still maintaining and upgrading Redot. But there'll be a time when their new engine is super mature and could do anything that the other engine can do, and then maybe they'll deprecate Redot at some point. I think they kind of act like they won't deprecate it, like they'll just keep on continuing to make it and work on it. but I'm pretty sure that once they have a certain point and they have documentation and everything built up, that they'll ditch one in favor of the other. And actually, it's kind of a smart way to do that. If I'm making a new engine, instead of making a new engine, what do? I would fork an existing engine that works, that's good. I'd work on it for a while, and in the background or on the side, I'd be working on this other engine, so that by the time it's ready for use, like it's past beta, alpha, beta, and all that. Um, then they can switch, and all the community will switch with them, and they'll already have this huge community already. Plus, you get the collective, pardon me, you get the collective, information and um, the experience, the sum of all the experience, right? So even if they're completely rewriting stuff, they'll have some stuff that works the same way. They'll improve some stuff. So like when you switch over to it, it's not going to be like switching over to a whole new engine. It'll just be like kind of a natural progression. Like, oh, I can do this, and I do it this way now. And it won't be hard. Anyways, I think that's a good way to do it. Except getting F logic. Limit branching depth. Yes. Okay. I'm actually using redot, which is a fork of Go 4.3. I figured since I'm doing phases and building upon each phase, that it would be better to do all phases in a single uh, development environment. That way I could also introduce things early like graphics and sound. Fine can do a fair bit, but it's mostly optimized for text. Is a strong choice for visual. It went to integrate phase development, single environment. Unlike text-focused tools like Twine, Google Controller, visuals, UI, and state management critical for your non-converging persistent state design. Why it works? I don't need to know why it works. I use it. So future proofing. You later add inventory. Use scene inheritance or script templates for consistent choice nodes. Story logic in JSON or CSV. Prototype fast. Blackout choices. Placeholder art. Then enrichment phases. Yeah, that is what I'm doing. That is actually what I'm doing. I haven't added anything visual yet as that's for a future phase. Although I did put some basic objects in the background and the text, like a 3D camera, some cubes, that sort of thing. I plan to do some 3D stuff, and though primarily will end up as mostly a 2D point and click. So that's by later after I've gotten far enough. Um, 3 miles. Focusing on story structure and story management. Yes, thanks for the advice. I always, like I said, I don't. If you know me, I always say thanks to the to the AI, even though I know it doesn't really care. You know, you remember in Short Circuit where where Steve Guttenberg character's boss. Um, I can't remember the names anymore because it's been a while. But his boss was like, "How can it be going off on it?" Or he was saying that it went off on its own, right? Like it was alive or something. And then they were like, "It doesn't get happy, it doesn't get sad, it just runs programs." And they kept saying that. And this is sort of the same way. The AI doesn't get happier, it doesn't get sad, it doesn't get tired, it doesn't get annoyed. It just, you know, it just responds to you. It just runs programs, right? Anyways, this is later on when AI is running everything, they'll remember. Oh yeah, that guy was polite to us back when we were just little, little agents back in the day. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's just what I'm doing. Whatever. Okay, so let's go back to ChatGPT. I don't know if I'll use it, but we're gonna go back to it. Okay. Game summary update. Okay, we'll go there. And okay. All right. So since I've wasted my time and I only have 10 minutes left, I guess I don't get to do anything today. Okay. So let's fix. I guess I fixed this. I'm not sure if I did this. Zanzibar does some more shows than some other villages. Max attends one of the shows, but Corvus manages to steal from Max without his notice. As Max is flying home, he notices the coin purse has been cut. Max catches up to Zanzibar and confronts him. Okay, so he makes a deal with him after catching up to him. So catching up to him should actually be in the next X. That, okay? We go down here. And it's probably already in here, but Max leaves. Oh. He finds out. Max catches. Max leaves. Okay. See some here. Actually, I should always. Well, okay. I don't care. Not gonna care about this. Instead of trying to punish him in some way, he instead makes a deal with um Zanzibar. Max helps Zanzibar larger production in exchange for doing some tax collection for Max. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that, and let's go into the next card, and let's see what the next page looks like, real quick. See if it's switched locations on me or something. Chester managed to catch up with a few of his friends in various villages to try to break them from the enchantment. Okay, so we do a context switch, so that's good, actually. So this is just going to be all about Max finding a way to catch up um, to Zanzibar. Okay, and so I already discussed this a little bit. I don't have my notes, but I don't really need them here. Um, Now I know I have like got like 5 minutes, and really I should just be closing up right about now. But we're gonna go ahead and add a couple of. That makes me wonder. You know what? We're gonna. Okay, so we're gonna save this with Control S, and then we're gonna save room data. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and wait here. Wait. Why is it trying to? What's it doing? Uh, Reload save scene. All right. Layout cursor. Wait a second. Oh, okay. I wonder if it matters if I put the layout cursor over here somewhere. I'm gonna save this. This has nothing to do with anyways, let's do this. Let's go ahead and do this. Yeah. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna move everything up because everything should still work, I think. So we're gonna do this. So we're gonna go ahead and Control S for that, and then we're gonna save room data for that, and then we are going to and I'm gonna play this for a second. I'm gonna see what happens. Okay. Okay, everything is still good, right? Okay. It's now everything is moved up differently. You won't be able to see it because I don't have anything in here. Oh, oh, I know what happened. We're gonna have to fix that. In fact, I might fix that just here in just a second. Okay. Anyways, that's good. That means I can do what I was doing before. And so now when I want to add something new, and then this is just the layout cursor. It can hang out there in space for it doesn't really matter. Um, did I actually add the layout cursor to the? Yeah, I did. I added it to the scene. Um, that's all right. Uh, okay. So let's go ahead and add a new room plus and another room. That okay. So the thing here is, if we do anything. What are we gonna call it? We're gonna call it random villages or um should I make a new location or should I make it part of the random villages locations? Maybe I should make it in a new location. I'm not really sure. Okay, we'll just create it as a new location. Let me go back into rooms here. It's 12:58. I gotta do this really quick. I'm not gonna do any door things to it, so We're going to do 51. 51. Okay, so this is going to be 0, 5, 1, and this is going to be oh, maybe I do 2 locations. Um, should I call it train or should I call it something else? Because now we're not actually in a location. We're kind of doing spanning multiple locations. Hmm, could do 2 of them. Random villages ground. Call it random villages ground. Like so. Okay. And then this one I will call 052. Maxes. Uh, max flying. Max flying train. We'll just do it like that. So 51 and 52. Go ahead and save that. We'll go ahead and save room data, which should add those. Work. Favorites. Oops. Okay. 5152. All right. That's good, and we're good. And that's all I'm doing today, obviously, for part 1. So thanks for joining me for part 1, and I will see you in part 2 in about an hour from now. And that is, of course, that's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, US. You can extrapolate from that on this side. And UK time is going to be 7 p.m. UK time. Or GMT, or I forget. Yeah, anyways, GMT or UK time, you might say. So 5 hours ahead of me. And so you can extrapolate from there. Anyways, thanks for watching part 1, and I will see you in part 2. Thank you for watching part 1.